This video is intended to help you learn some ideas about working with Spreadsheet 9.1 and then the follow-on Spreadsheet 9.2. So we go here to topic 9. We have our activity Spreadsheet 9.1. Open the folder up. In there you'll find the spreadsheet. Go ahead and open that up. Okay, so here we are at the top of the spreadsheet. First thing you do is, of course, put in your name like this. Just type your name in and the date. So this will be, I'm going to put in today's date. I'm working on this on the first of the year of 2017. This is a spreadsheet that's designed for you to be able to use the rest of your life, really, to keep and maintain and update your investment plan. The first section is investment objectives. Notice that each of these cells that has a red triangle has a comment here to help you understand how to do this particular part of the spreadsheet. So I'm going to click that and say show the comment so that I can keep it open and read it here for a minute. It says you might have a single investment objective, or you might have several. Now, most people will have more than one, but for purposes of this course, I'd be happy if you just concentrated on one reasonable objective. That's up to you. This spreadsheet is designed to help you throughout your investing career, so you might want to treat this seriously and put down more than one investment objective. It says be concrete. Here are some examples. Accumulate a portfolio valued at $1 million over 30 years. Now, that sounds like a lot of money, $1 million, but these days $1 million isn't going to be as much as you think it is after you account for inflation and so forth. Here's another example of an investment goal. Accumulate a college fund valued at $30,000 over 10 years. Notice that these objectives state both a total amount that you want to accumulate and how long it's going to take for you to do so. So that's the idea of a objective, an investment objective. So I'm turning off these comments so you can see what's going on. You could add more or remove them if you want to. Investment objectives could be just one, you could have two, you could have three. If you need four, you just duplicate, you can expand this section and add a couple of more lines to it and create objective 4. Next, we'll take a look at the constraints. Everybody will have several constraints. Constraints are factors that could keep you from implementing your investment plan. Here are some examples. Some of you might need to pay off student loans before beginning to invest. Some of you might have a residual income after monthly living expenses that is rather low. Here it says $100, whatever your constraint is. Some people might need to take care of aging parents. These are things that could get in the way of your investment plans, and so it's a good thing to articulate them here. And to do that, you just simply select a cell, type in whatever your constraint is, and away you go. To make this reasonable and more usable, you can either add some more lines. If you have 5 constraints instead of just 4, add a line here. Make this expand. It's pretty easy to do. Savings targets. In this section, here you declare what your saving target is. That's the amount you plan to invest annually each year. You have to have a savings target for each investment objective that you specified. Include your initial investment amount for each objective. Specify your annual savings target amount and specify a definite percentage increase in your annual saving plan over the investment horizon. Once again, as in all of these sections, you can add or delete rows of the spreadsheet to accommodate what you have in mind. So for example, here Let me just show you objective 1. Let's suppose up here in objective 1 you had put accumulate $1 million over the next 40 years, we'll say. There's your objective, okay? Well, now we get down here to initial investment. Oh, let me go ahead and fill in here for constraint. If you put in here for constraint, surplus income per month is $50. Okay, so you put in $50. All right, that's a constraint that you face as you're preparing this investment plan. If you get down here and you put down here initial annual investment here and you put down $1,000, my question is going to be, where are you going to get that $1,000? Do you have it already? If you don't, then you can't make an initial investment of $1,000. So you need to be realistic here. So if your surplus income is only $50 per month, then it might be that you put $50 here. That's where you start. But then you say, well, I'm going to do this every month, and I'm just working on this one objective, accumulate $1 million over the next 40 years. And so initial investment, this is for $50. Then your second year annual investment, if you did $50 a month, that'd be $600. And so you can say, well, I can do this. By the second year, I'm going to be putting $600 into my investment. This next slot, percent growth rate in annual saving, that now means you're going to put a percent in here. It's going to be 1%, 2%, 3%, whatever. If you put in 10% here, then a reasonable question is how in the world are you going to be able to increase your annual savings 10% per year? That's probably unrealistic. Are you planning to get increases in your wages, annual income of 10% per year? That's pretty unrealistic. So you got to be realistic here. Maybe you want to put 1%, or maybe even 0.5%. Those might be realistic. Notice that just says 1% now because it rounded off. If you want to increase the number of decimal points, then you can see that's a half of a percent, half of 1%. You would put your savings target here for each objective that you have. If you only have one, then you just have one savings target. If you have two objectives, then you need to repeat that for each one. We get here to the asset allocation section. Here, this is just going to lead you to declare what asset classes you intend to invest in. Now, if you're trying to do this investment plan without reading and studying the material that I've provided for creating an investment plan, you're not going to be very successful. So you need to have read all that stuff first. You need to understand what an asset class is. By now, you should understand that. If you don't, you've got some work to do. But here, you need to just put in, what's my first asset class? Well, I'm going to put stocks, okay? And that would be quite common for most people. How about a second asset class? Well, if you're just going to do stocks, well, that would be it. But most people are also going to invest in some bonds. Okay, that's sufficient for our purposes right now. And next, you need to allocate over your asset classes here. You need to say, well, what percentage will I have in stocks? Well, there's some information that we've learned throughout the course about what to do there, and it's age dependent, and your risk averseness and so forth. But you might say, well, I'm young, I'm going to put in 20%, I'm going to put in rather 80% in stocks, and in bonds, I'm going to put 10%. This is just making this up here to show you how to do this. Your final asset class here might be cash. Okay, and then you want these things to add up to 100%, so put 10% there. So now you've shown what kind of asset class allocation you intend. These subclasses have to do with what kinds of stocks, what kind of bonds, cash, of course, can either be actual money, cash, or it could be money market funds. You get the idea. I'm just trying to show you how to use this right now, so I'm not going to go into great detail. This will require close attention here, though, to get this into a reasonable format that actually suits you and what you're trying to accomplish for your investment objectives. Your asset allocation target's going to have to match up with whatever objectives you put up here. If you say you want to accumulate $1 million over the next 40 years and you come down here and say, well, all I'm going to really do is I'm going to save cash, uh, that's probably not going to get you there unless you're able to save a whole bunch of cash every year. So this asset allocation target section needs to be consistent with your goals, your objectives. This section, the objective investment philosophy, I want you to spend some time on this, think about it. I want you to read about what the possibilities are here. If you look at the comment on the cell, it gives you some pointers about what kinds of things you should address in this section. So right off the bat, you need to say, I am a passive, is it? That's what I am. I am a passive investor. That means I'm not going to try to actively manage my portfolio. Now, we spent a whole lot of time studying what this means and thinking about it, so this shouldn't leave you confused about what to put here. But try to touch on each of these things in your investment philosophy, because this is going to be a touchstone throughout your investing career to remind you of how you plan to go about being an investor. Finally, get down here to the future calculator, the future value calculator. This is just a little calculator that I've put in here that's going to help you assess whether or not your objectives are achievable given the kinds of investments you're planning to make in your investment philosophy and all the rest of it. You put into the initial investment, this is just the amount you invest in the asset class. Or it could be your whole portfolio if you want to use the calculator for that purposes. So you might put in here, as I've got showing here, $1,000. That's what you plunk down $1,000 into your initial investment, and you put it in whatever asset class that's going to be in, and then you tell the calculator the dollar amount that you will invest the second year of your investment planning period. Here are horizons 40 years. You could have put something else in there if you want to. So I've put $1,000 here as well. That would be the total amount that you're going to put into your investment portfolio during your second year of the planning period. Finally, here you have a percent growth rate in your annual contribution. 10% is really high. Once again, be realistic here. That's probably way too high. And you can see when I change this to something that's more reasonable, like 1%, watch what happens to the future value when I change this. I put that in. It goes down by a bunch. But that's a realistic growth rate in annual contribution. 10% is pretty unrealistic unless you plan on winning the lotto. Then your expected nominal rate of return. We studied what rates of return are, what nominal rates are, what real rates are. This is your nominal rate of return. So that includes inflation, of course. If your nominal rate of return is 10% and the rate of inflation is 2%, your real rate's about 8%. You have to be realistic here too. What do you actually expect your nominal rate of return to be? 8% used to be not a bad assumption. It's not clear, it's not entirely clear that that's a good assumption these days. Maybe 5% is more realistic. All that's going to depend on some things that aren't under your control. But you see what happens here. What this is telling us is if you put down $1,000 this year, and then next year you put down another $1,000 in your investment, and then the percent growth rate in your annual contribution is 1%, so that means that in the third year you'll be investing a bit more than $1,000. How much more? 1% more. That's $100, so that would make your third year investment contribution $1,100. That's the meaning of all that. And if your expected nominal rate of return is 5% after 40 years, you're going to have $153,109 accumulated. So you can begin to see how this future value calculator that I've put in here just gives you a way to make some judgments about whether or not your investment plan is consistent. And of course, for this assignment, I'm looking for that to be consistent. So you're going to have to do a little work here and use the investment planning calculator down here. You can also use, if you think back to topic 3 where we did some spreadsheets and future value calculations, annuity values and so forth, you could also use those spreadsheets to help you assess whether or not your investment plan makes sense. Okay, so this is an important assignment. As I say, it counts for 60% of your 60 points rather of your total activity points of 400 points in this course. I'm looking for you to do a great job. This is asking you to pull together a whole lot of ideas and information that you've learned throughout the course.